Broadcasting live from our studio in Boston, Solutions Review is proud to showcase Broadcom in the Solution Spotlight, an inside look at enterprise technologies.
I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and welcome to the Solution Spotlight featuring Broadcom, and focused on ways to enhance the network experience across hybrid and multi-cloud. Modern network operations teams need to monitor network delivery paths between end users, managed infrastructure, and business-critical applications across hybrid and multi-cloud environments. This requires new visibility into applications, traffic flows, distributed locations, and managing cloud workflows to maintain good end-user experience. So today, we will shine our spotlight on Broadcom's active and passive monitoring methodologies that provide network and app performance baselines, migration validation, and other insights needed for successful observability in multi-cloud environments. And joining us to walk you through the Broadcom presentation today is Jeremy Rosbach, Chief Technical Evangelist for Network Observability. Jeremy, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, welcome back, actually. I know we did this earlier in the year, had a good spotlight then, and I know you're bringing a lot of things to the table today. But before we get into all that, why don't, for the folks that may not have seen our previous spotlight, tell us a little bit more about your path to being the Chief Technical Evangelist. A great title, by the way, at Broadcom.
Yeah, it's pretty, it's kind of unique. I started out my career, first half of my career, running data centers for the likes of Northrop Grumman, Department of Veterans Affairs, T. Rowe Price on the East Coast out of Baltimore, and some small startups, and ended up joining Computer Associates, or CA Technologies at the time, running their data centers, but we consolidated a lot of them, and I'm sure everyone knows and remembers data center consolidations, probably still going on today. So I ended up moving to a more technical sales role, and then finally this evangelist role where I talk to our customers almost all the time about their challenges and how Broadcom can help resolve some of those and get them future-proofed for their network transformation initiatives down the road.
Well, and I know you also are hosting a podcast, the NetApp's Expert Podcast, which is nice to see. We always appreciate somebody who knows their way around the microphone. So what I'm going to suggest is that I get out of the way, and what I'll tell everybody is. If you have any questions and you want us to bring them in to ask Jeremy, by all means submit them, and we'll take them here as Jeremy works his way through his presentation. I'll follow up at the end with a Q&A session. I'll have some questions, would love some questions from the audience as well. But for now, Jeremy, I'm going to hand it over to you and let you go through the presentation, and as you wrap it up, I'll catch up with you in a half an hour or so.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. So very excited to be here. Again, we are talking about cloud. Who isn't talking about cloud? But I don't know a lot of clouds, or private data center to clouds, or intercloud. These are network paths that need to be scrutinized and validated to understand how the network experience is happening for our users. And we're going to talk about the 4 ways that you can enhance that network experience across your cloud deployments. So just to level set, this is a study that was done this year in cooperation with a third party and sponsored by Broadcom, where we surveyed over 500 IT professionals about the state of their network operations. And I find some of these surprising and others not. 77% report that network operations is significantly more complex today. I think we all would agree, especially with the pandemic and how the pandemic really changed the way we deliver customer experiences across the network, utilizing more public networks, third-party networks, ISP, cloud, instead of the 4 walls of the data center and corporate and branch offices. 82% report visibility blind spots because of that complexity. Since we're using more public cloud and adopting more SaaS, it changes the network path that we used to know very well and control completely. That is not the case. Another data point is around 75% of the user experience today, obviously, because of what we just talked about, exists outside of the four walls of the data center and not inside. And really, that's where that complexity starts. But then this is the one that surprised me. 41% cite a lack of skilled personnel as the #1 challenge for NetOps success. This was a little shocking because I wasn't aware that with the complexity and with the challenges today, I don't think there is a lot of skilled personnel like there was in the 90s when the tech bubble was huge. And that can be complex technologies like SD-WAN and software-defined LAN and cloud architects now that didn't exist before cloud started. So these are reasons why Broadcom is excited to be innovating in the area to make the state of network operations simpler. And that's what we have to do today. We have to simplify what it takes to manage today's complex networks because you're telling us to. I mean, look at the data points here. We're hearing it. So we're here to talk about how we can simplify that for the folks on the call today. So these are the 4 ways. Of course, there's more. I think these are the most exciting 4 ways to guarantee or at least build resilient networks that deliver an exciting customer experience across this new complex network path. And we'll get into each of these. The new network delivery path, data. Can't emphasize that more. With that data, you start then validating it. And then, of course, continuously real-time implementing observability processes and practices that keeps that infrastructure resilient. So let's talk about #1, embrace the new network delivery path. Like I said, most network experiences and customer experiences are not corporate to the branch office anymore. They are wherever the user is to wherever the app is. And that changes what our network path looks like. Whether you're running a private VMware Cloud Foundation data center, accessing public networks to get to SaaS environments, or your same private data center maybe in AWS for some front-end web servers, or if users are at home. I am on travel right now, so I'm not in a corporate office, or folks that are in hotels or coffee shops. Using public networks to access cloud or SaaS environments looks like this. None of us are the admins of our ISPs for network delivery or cloud providers. So we have this huge gap in observability that looks like that. So what we need to do is use processes and procedures and innovation from vendors like Broadcom to start collecting that data in that area that you see is grayed out, right? We can collect data from these third-party public networks that gives us enough information to understand what the entire network path looks like. And what data is that? ISP network device data like packet loss and latency and jitter. If there's some software-defined metrics that can be collected to understand that, log data, the capacity, et cetera, MOS scores. This is data that can be gathered from third-party networks to understand the resiliency of that entire network path for that user experience. Then reducing the scope, understanding exactly what network paths are delivering voice traffic or data traffic, and helping you understand what data collect along that network path and its resiliency. And then using all of this data, like you see on the left-hand side here, it could be alarms, it could be fault performance, flow, like SDN, telemetry, topology, you name it. All this data is extremely important to understand the full scope of network delivery. I would not make a meal and only use 8 out of the 10 ingredients. It's not going to taste the same as if I use all 10 out of the 10 ingredients, right? So having as much data as you can and using that data efficiently and intelligently to understand where you need to focus your attention, either now or in the future, proactively. You can see here this data and analytics and algorithms that are applied to this data at the very top. I know it's small, but this event has occurred over 7,000 times, but you only have one alarm. This is some of the exciting innovation that we deliver around understanding the network delivery path while reducing the noise these technologies create. It's very, very important. I can't imagine sifting through 7,000 events to try to find the root cause of an issue when one alarm, which takes me to all the data, as you see on the left here, about that known device to pinpoint exactly where the root cause is. Now you have all this data, you have all your ingredients, right, for a wonderful recipe and meal. We need to validate that all the data is correct and telling us exactly what we want to see. Because applications are complex now, right? Like I said, private data center, you could be housing, you could have front-end web servers in the cloud, you're using SaaS applications, you could be on the other side of the world in a hotel. Accessing that application is very much more complex than it was when we had everything in the four walls of the data center. Understanding the network path from source or client to cloud with active testing or synthetic testing to be able to understand the performance at every single hop, like you see in the upper left-hand corner here. What is the performance at every single hop from source to destination, and what type of data loss, packet loss, or any type of thresholds that are being breached at that device, and seeing it in real time. And then finally, using all this data, all this innovation to make continuous improvements. For example, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee, customers of ours, recently put in production a SD-WAN technology. But what they didn't do is let the NOC know it was going to be live. So they started getting a lot of alerts and alarms about bad performance along that network path. And what no one realized is that the port on the core switch was set to half duplex instead of full duplex. This wouldn't have been found if that SD-WAN deployment was set up in a test environment and continuous and hop by hop analysis was done to understand where there may be a degradation along this entire path and fix it before it goes into production. You could do that same type of testing from client to cloud provider and understand every single hop in the third-party ISP or cloud provider network and where maybe a device will not be reaching our performance thresholds for consistent and resilient network delivery. This could be north-south pass. This could be east-west traffic between data centers or virtual environments. Understanding every hop, every device, virtual or physical, and the performance of that device from client to cloud is what we're doing to build resilient network delivery across these hybrid cloud environments. And then it looks like this. This is what your visibility can look like. So say you're running a private cloud VMware VCF environment in your data center, and obviously it's in your data center. You can see that big red diamond looking thing on the left-hand side. Maybe that was the core switch in the Blue Cross Blue Shield environment. And then we start getting into ISPs when we leave the data center, into more WAN technology, and then finally to our destination on the right side. But being able to see inside of these third-party networks that you do not own and understanding where packet loss may be occurring, that is what we call mean time to innocence, or even more important, mean time to insight. So not only have you found network team innocence and you can prove it's not you, it's them. Think about the time spent in war rooms where people are blaming the database team or the application team. Now, listen, we're not going to fix this for you. We're not the gods of the ISP networks, but having this data in front of you within a minute versus hours of sifting through thousands of events and then finally understanding it was an ISP outage, it can save you hours and hours of triage time. And that's exactly what we're looking to do here, because we need to simplify what is a very complex network operations day to day. Another use case around this is Fidelity Information Services, FIS. They are basically a cloud provider of financial data for their financial customers. One time, a customer was complaining it couldn't get to a certain app or device or whatever it is, and for many, many, many months, troubleshooting was done and couldn't find the resolution. When Broadcom came in, set up monitoring points to understand that exact network path for that specific customer, it immediately found a misconfigured F5 load balancer in the customer's environment. Now, listen, if that isn't mean time to innocence, I don't know what is. The customer met with the network team to deal with the load balancing issue, and their network experience was much better after that. So really, really exciting stuff that we're doing here. I wanted to touch on, because I'm sure some customers will have some questions around the possible vision and strategy and integration points with Broadcom's network observability solution and VMware. So, of course, VMware has VMware Cloud Foundation, a private data center stack. And like any other cloud provider that we integrate with, we're able to see and understand multiple aspects of performance within these cloud environments. So this is a very exciting and yet another new cloud environment that we support for visibility. But it is within our family. So we have a lot more integration and innovation that we can do. Of course, VCF, like most cloud providers, provide storage and compute and networking. But what we do is we then show you the performance and health of your VCF environment with the rest of your global network operations, the other vendor tech, the other cloud providers you may be using. And then if you hadn't heard from VMware Explore Vegas this year, the additional launch of advanced services for VMware Cloud Foundation, anywhere from disaster recovery to advanced security to private AI, workload automation. All of this is in addition to the VCF deployments that our customers are using to build more robust and secure and agile environments. So this is VMware Cloud Foundation. Some of the use cases with Broadcom and VMware look something like this. And again, it's going to look similar because we have been agnostic for 30 plus years. So new technology coming on the market, we study it, we integrate it, and then we add it to the long list of the global health we show you across all of your vendors, all of your protocols, all of your technologies. So again, VCF is just another destination or client starting a source network transaction going to a destination somewhere. So providing that full network path visibility is what this looks like. What about VeloCloud SD-WAN? Again, a new and wonderful software-defined WAN technology we're adding to our list of long software-defined WAN technologies we support for global network observability. This is just a quick screenshot triage workflow, but an SD-WAN alarm may come in. Again, we're going to reduce the amount of times it takes or that event has occurred into one alarm, show you a global view of your SD-WAN deployments. Obviously, green is good, red is bad. So we're continuing to focus your attention on where to triage. And then from there, getting into granular insights that have been collected along that network path. Again, packet loss, latency, jitter, capacity, flows, and then showing you what the entire network path looks like and the culprit device or error domain where the issue is occurring. Again, you can see it on the right side here, this round trip network path, and discovering a public device and an ISP network that has large data jitter happening sporadically, pinpointing the cause of this outage for this VeloCloud deployment in a unmanaged ISP network. And similar, multi-cloud observability, so intercloud, right? So maybe Google to AWS or something. So being able to see between clouds to understand exactly how that performance is happening. I'm going to get into a demo now, but what I just showed you is the reasons why we're number one in the industry, voted 4 straight years in a row by GigaOM. And the last report that came out from EMA on network observability, we were number one. Another report's coming out any day now. And then our customers have voted us number one for network management, observability, network capacity planning on PeerSpot, like a Yelp for IT solutions. So let's see why we're number one. So I am going to show you our demo here of our Appneta solution, which extends our network observability capabilities outside the 4 walls of the data center and into these third-party networks like ISP and cloud to get that full network path visibility you need because the network path has changed so much. So be able to understand from a quick dashboard, global health and resiliency numbers here. We do see some violations that have occurred. If we get down here, I know this is very small, but data loss has occurred here, which is what's picked up on this. 2 violations. We can now understand this is from our Ashburn data center out to a Microsoft Azure cloud destination. And so this network path has been identified and data loss has been identified along that path. But where? Then being able to show you from source to destination what the entire network path looks like. I'm looking at this from the last 10 minutes, but what did it look like an hour ago? Well, look at this. This is much different. Look at all the possible network and route changes that could occur in these ISP networks if you didn't have this visibility already. As we dive deeper, now that we understand the full end-to-end hop-by-hop network path and what it looks like, we can understand the ISPs that are supporting that network path, right? So we can see here that CenturyLink is part of this network path, and Microsoft, again, of course, the cloud provider we're going into, is part of this network path. We also see a Google Cloud interconnect cloud connection here as well. So we've identified the hop-by-hop network path from source to destination across unmanaged networks like ISP. We understand the ISPs that are involved in that network path, so we know who to go to. As we dive deeper into this triage scenario, we can see all the events that have occurred along this entire chain of events and path. Again, our path here, we can see CenturyLink and then into Microsoft Azure. This is the great data I told you need to be collecting along these network paths and in these unmanaged networks. So we're getting this data from ISP network devices that we don't own. We're not admins of. This is the data you need to understand and pinpoint and focus the root cause of your cloud network delivery. I see some spikes in latency here. This is a demo environment, so you can understand some of these are not real time, but this is the data you need to pinpoint exactly what the performance degradation is and where. As we dive a little deeper into this and run a diagnostic, and we talked about that active testing, continuous active testing diagnostics can be run when something has been noticed as a threshold breach. Automatic diagnostics are done to understand and pinpoint. So we see no response here from this hop. Again, it's a demo environment, but in this scenario, this end-to-end network path, hop 5 has no response. Of course, hop 5 is probably going to be somewhere in an unmanaged network as it gets to the destination. So in this demo scenario, we can see hop 5 is not responding. This device is down. It's in a network we don't own. Within CenturyLink, we can go to CenturyLink with this information, which I would hope they would surely be working on at this point if this was a real scenario. And then taking this information, so now we understand the network path and its resiliency, but what is this network delivery doing to the application experience if we have this hop down? This device is not responding. Being able to understand this type of application transactions, like opening the homepage and logging in and clicking on this and shopping and adding it to your cart and paying. What is the network delivery degradation doing to the application experience as you set these thresholds for millisecond responses to deliver resilient cloud applications across what is a very complex network architecture right now. Great information to understand not only what the network path looks like, but the experience of the network path as it's associated to application delivery. And then real quick, just wanted to let you guys know, if you want to see more of this and hear about it from our customers themselves, we recently hosted a network observability virtual summit with 4 of our customers, one of them being financial or Fidelity. You'll hear Keith tell that story, but these are real stories from real customers. Yours truly spoke with them, and we had a really good time talking about network challenges and the results of using Broadcom to overcome those challenges. And then please connect with me on LinkedIn so we talk more about NetOps. And back to you guys. That is it for me.
Well, that was a tour, and the thing that always strikes me is really at the beginning of that presentation the complexity that exists underneath, the ultimate delivery of the information to the endpoint, the path that it has to go through, I don't think, at least from my, more limited exposure, people have a true understanding of just how complex that is. And I do appreciate the concept of what is mean time to innocence? Is that what it is?
Mean time to innocence. Yep.
Which talk a little bit about how you do that, and the value of being able to do that, and quite frankly the ability to be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it in real time. So I'm off the coast of Seattle. Where are you?
We're outside of Boston.
Okay, so west to east coast. God, I don't even want to imagine what that network path looks like, hop by hop, from my wireless router here into Seattle, and probably maybe even CenturyLink, because I know they're here on the West Coast as an ISP, and then to get all the way over to you guys as we're streaming voice and video, which we all know is the hog of network bandwidth. What if you said my screen was frozen during the demo? I would obviously first be trying to troubleshoot my Wi-Fi and freaking out. And then where would I have to go next? I'd probably maybe have to call my IT department. What's happening is it on my laptop? Am I VPN'd in and going through a Broadcom data center? That could be part of the network path. But if I called my Broadcom team and said, please help me troubleshoot this, they're going to say, you're not even in an office. We can't see anything of the network that you're using because you're using public networks. That would be the case without this technology. But with this technology, they'd be able to see maybe that network device was not pingable inside of CenturyLink or Microsoft's network with this solution, then take it to them. Let me give you another example, because I usually tell this story with a picture in a slideshow. My kid, I've had to replace her bumper like 4 times on her car. She's in her 20s, and I know we all know teenage drivers. We were all once them. But the next time it happens, I'm going to tell her to call herself, the insurance company. And what's going to happen is, more likely than not, because we have a lot of insurance companies as customers, that insurance agent or claims representative will probably be home. They won't be in the office. So their network path to that claims application they're going to use to get my kid all together will probably be in a cloud environment. So their network path from claims adjuster at their house to the cloud provider where the claims app is could be very complex. It could be associated with all public networks. And if this person says, I'm sorry, Jillian, I can't help you at the moment. I can't get to my claims application. That's not acceptable in today's environment. It can't be. I mean, they could lose customers. It's a horrible customer experience. So that claims or that insurance company's IT department would utilize a solution like us to be able to help that claims representative identify quickly and easily why she can't access the claims application, maybe even more proactively than reactively, and help my kid get yet another bumper installed on her car. So I hope that helps.
It does. And here at Solutions Review, we're doing dozens of spotlights these days, and inevitably AI is being featured in many of them. And I have to ask the question, what are the possible use cases, the AI use cases for this solution?
Yeah. On my podcast, the NetOps Expert, we do talk a lot about AI. I mean, it's what everyone's talking about. It's like 5 years ago when everyone was talking about SD-WAN. But I take a different approach, because I do believe it could be a lot of hype. It is a lot of hype at the moment for most of the enterprises out there as we watch the hyperscalers use this technology. But what I preach is to get your networks ready for tomorrow's AI. So let's get your networks ready today for tomorrow's AI. I mean, I'm sure we can understand the workloads that would have to be delivered across our networks in order to help the algorithms learn and to give the answers, especially around Gen AI, that the solution can help deliver. Because we saw packet loss or data loss in that example I gave you of this use case and the demo. If there's packet loss across the network path that the AI workloads are using, it could result in what I've seen recently when I was trying to use an AI image generator. And I said, give me two guys on a sofa with a hoodie and sunglasses. And one of them looked like they got in a horrible car wreck, and the other one had 8 fingers on their hand. And that is just not good data, or data that was maybe dropped or lost across the network path, and it couldn't deliver the response you were expecting. Everyone's talking about AI, but no one's talking about the networks that need to be resilient enough to make AI successful. And that's what we're doing.
Well, I appreciate the idea of guidance, and getting prepared for what's coming, because I mean, we are seeing it here in the conversations we're having. It's going to be something special.
Yeah. Yeah, a great
Not quite like
example of
anything.
and a great example of how then, with a resilient network and a network that can deliver the data needed for the algorithms to give us the answers we want or expect. A great use case for network operations utilizing AI might be, I come in the morning and I'm an L1 knock operator, and I sit down with my cup of coffee. Where do I focus my attention? And I can just say, hey, knock bot, is anyone complaining this morning that I need to start working on? And the knockbot has all this data, and it saw there were issues in Seattle with thresholds being breached of maybe data loss or voice loss or capacity, whatever it is. It has this data. It has it from logs. It has it from faults and performance and flows. And as it calculates this data, it says, well, we have received a few calls that folks in Seattle are having issues, and I seem to have high packet loss on this device in CenturyLink. We should probably do something about that. It's a wonderful use case around how AI can help network operations, not just you and I make pictures of our dogs fighting, aliens. And I can only imagine what the use cases may be beyond that.
Well, that's what I believe is going to be coming in the next 12 months, are the sales teams from all the solutions that are currently being built. And the solutions that they're going to be presenting are going to be incredibly compelling, because it will be taking data that has honestly traditionally been captured but not optimized or utilized or aggregated or you name it, right? It's just not being leveraged because it's just the tools weren't powerful enough to deal with the amount of data that is available to be analyzed. But
I'm telling you
AI,
this, none of them are going to be successful. You say in about a year, none of them are going to be successful unless data is a priority and a resilient network is a priority. Because again, like 8 out of the 10 ingredients for me to make dinner tonight. If the AI bot has gathered all this data and you ask it, where should I focus my attention? And it said, everything's cool this morning, no one's complaining, but that AI wasn't gathering data from this specific switch that only writes a optical port having issues in its log. And if you're not collecting that log and looking at that log on that specific device that only writes a specific port and errors from it in its log, the AI bot will never know that was an outage. So data, data, data. I can't stress it enough.
well, and also being able to understand where weaknesses are in the network. I mean, we put a lot of thought and effort into being conscientious with our solution spotlights. But if truth of the matter is, if all of a sudden one or both of us froze through no fault of all the effort that we put into it, it would be a failure, and the blame would ultimately land in our acrylic desk. So
that's right.
Yeah, it's really it's table stakes now to understand what is actually happening all the way through all the hops to the to the final delivery. But let me ask you, because we do have some questions coming in, and I do want to ask about, well, one thing is, very specifically, is how does the solution differ from Thousand Eyes, which I believe is the Cisco solution?
Yeah. Thousand Eyes does a great job of understanding what we call outside in. Being able to understand when an AWS outage occurs and where it's occurring and what users may be affected in that area, et cetera. We take a more inside out approach where we tell you the impact of that outage on that specific user or groups of users or that geolocation, as well as the application impact in that region as well. So, these users in the Northwest corridor are all using the claims environment, and it's taking them 6 seconds longer to log in than what we expect. So understanding that an outage has occurred in a cloud environment is great. I mean, we can do that pretty easily as users too, by just Googling to see if something's down. But giving the data back to the network operations teams that allow them to see the impact on productivity of that outage is how we different. And it's why our customers are very excited about this, like mean time to innocence and mean time to insights. It's why they buy the Appneta solution from us. Not the only reason, but the biggest reason.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about when they buy the Appneta solution and how that comes together for them. What's the experience? What can they expect in terms of the engagement process?
Yeah. Well, it's a SaaS-based solution, so you expect to get up and running very, very, very quickly. Data is collected in the cloud and resiliently with high availability and load balancing and all that. So instant access. If you want to, depending on the application you want to monitor or the users you want to monitor, agents can be installed, very lightweight software agents. That's how we get the client to cloud user impact insights that we get. So some monitoring points or agents may be deployed, and it is a fast time to get up and running and see benefit.
And I think we have to talk a little bit about the integrations with VMware. So you touched on a little bit in your presentation. Obviously, it's top of mind for a lot of folks. This was a pretty significant acquisition, and so there's a lot of information out there. Can you break down a little bit about what what integrations are being discussed with regard to Broadcom and VMware?
Yeah. Like I showed in the presentation, of course, the networking technologies that VMware has built and virtualization technologies. So anywhere from their acquisition of VeloCloud, which is their SD-WAN solution. Again, we were supporting SD-WAN vendors like Viptela and other organizations out there, 128T, Juniper, et cetera. So this was another great SD-WAN orchestrator that we added to our long list of things that we maintain and observe for our solutions. There is software-defined data center, NSX or NSXT, as some folks name it. So the ability to be able to understand the health of your software-defined LAN, again, as it relates to the rest of your global network operations. Understanding how the software-defined LAN from VMware is performing is great, but it's, as we just discussed, it's only one small area of the entire network path that needs to be observed. And then VCF, VMware Cloud Foundation, which of course is another cloud provider in the likes of the AWS, GCPs. So to be able to provide observability across your entire cloud deployments, whether they're on-prem or hosted in AWS or both, that intercloud. Maybe the network path looks like your VCF, VMware Cloud Foundation in your private data center to maybe AWS is hosting middleware, and Google Cloud might be hosting the web front ends. That's a crazy network path, and there's a lot of inter cloud connectivity there. So again, to be able to observe that entire network path across VMware technologies and unmanaged third-party networks is what we're excited to be doing. And then I can't speak to it, but of course we all know VMware comes with security endpoint technology that we're looking to at least integrate with, or at least partner with, to help our customers secure their VMware environments. And other areas I don't get paid enough to even make decisions about. So we're very excited for the VMware family to join us. When I was at the VMware Explorer show in Vegas a few weeks ago, while most of the audience was there from a system admin point of view, a lot of the network topics we had were very exciting to them. So I know VMware customers, I hope, are just as excited as we are to have VMware join the family.
Well, so if you wouldn't mind, while I have you, because I also do a podcast and I can't resist, but I'd love to just kind of zoom out a little bit and talk to you about the changing role of network ops and kind of what you think people should be preparing for as they, aside from AI, obviously, but the other things that are happening in the space that really are impacting the role that you've had on both sides, really, of the coin. I mean, what do you see, and where do you see it all going in the next couple of years?
To be honest, I don't think the customers have to do the work. I think it's vendors like Broadcom that have to simplify the day-to-day tasks of network operations. Listen, we're talking about AI getting implemented in our daily network operations processes and procedures. I don't know one network engineer that is excited about that at the moment. So to be able to I mean, if someone's going to make a configuration change on a router, I want it to be me and not a robot, because it's going to come back down on me. I apologize, my dog is barking in the background. But so I think it's vendors like Broadcom that have to make the day-to-day jobs of network operations simpler, because the technology is getting more and more complex. And we saw there's a lack of skilled resources out in the field, like SD-WAN architects, et cetera, to be able to manage these environments. So we're here to make the L1, L2 day-to-day tasks much more simpler, so those folks may be able to triage and troubleshoot a third-party issue within an unmanaged network environment or a WAN environment. So
yeah, we're going to use AI later to have the dog barking eliminated from
of course,
from
someone
the
knocks on
sound.
my
I'm sure
door in the middle of this.
my tech team over here will jump on right on that. Yeah, no, it's fascinating. I love the perspective that it's not really that nobody's ready yet for bots and agents and whatever you want to call them to start pulling the handles of the dashboards. But talk a little bit more about that, because I mean, what do you see as the mindset right now? Because if you were to ask me, I think we saw with regard to the cloud that there was initial resistance to going to the cloud from the old guard, if you will, right? The folks that had built the data centers, that had control over where things were and how much security was baked in around that physical control. And so there was a hesitancy to go to the cloud, but that has, as you well know, has changed pretty much completely. And I think that will be similar, I would argue, in AI, and eventually the agents will rule the day. But tell me a little bit more about where you see that that resistance or the perils of moving too quickly there.
So we talk about network automation, and to be honest, I just interviewed Chris Grunderman. He created the Network Automation Forum, and they're now hosting tech shows about it. Network automation hasn't really even taken off because, there's so much hand-holding with networks, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's how it's been for 3 decades. I mean, configuration changes, manual, router configs, all that. Racking and stacking, it's all a very manual process. And, while you may have an app server or a database server or et cetera, they're still servers. Network operations is firewalls and load balancers and possibly security devices and hubs and routers and switches, and they all can speak their own language coming from different vendors. This is the complexity, just a bit of the complexity I'm talking about. And we still aren't jumping on the automation bandwagon for those devices. So when are we gonna love AI? Listen, I think like any disruptive technology, SD-WAN was disruptive and it wasn't catching on years ago. And we watched the bigger, badder companies out there test this and watch their failures and learn from their successes. And we're probably gonna do the same thing with AI. We'll let the Googles and the Amazons and the Microsofts fall down a bunch of times and then learn from their lessons, and then implement AI in a very small pocket, collecting a small amount of data, helping the algorithms learn what they need to learn, and then move that into scale that up to be a more bigger, badder solution where it is eventually looking at our entire global operations. But start small, get successes, pivot, and be agile, and collect as much data as you can and feed it to the algorithms in a way that they continually deliver consistent experiences.
Yeah, great. Well, there you have it. Some practical advice for how to start moving forward, and obviously, we believe whenever we do one of these solution spotlights, we believe it's a gateway drug to finding out about a really next level implementation. And clearly, as was described earlier by Jeremy, things are only getting more complicated, and it really does pay to work with the best in class. And we're always happy to have Broadcom on the spotlight. And Jeremy, it's a pleasure to see you again. Thank you very much for the time today, and best of luck with everything that you're working on through the rest of the year.
Thank you so much, and you too.
So there you have it, another solution in our spotlight. We want to thank Jeremy and Broadcom for that presentation, and we appreciate your attendance as well. Until next time, I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review. Thanks for watching.
If your business would like to be featured in a future event, contact us today.